It is day 8 and we are going to dive deep with the self-validation loop. I shared with you guys at noon that self-validation is more important than any kind of external validations, not only in dating world, otherwise too. But for this one, we're going to stick to the dating and how to create an irresistible version of you. And that version is going to make your reality completely change in a good way from point A to point B. This is where trying to get to. If you're in point A, you get here and then you start attracting. You work like a magnet. You know this magnet, suffrage magnet. So you work like a magnet, then you attract the things that you want instead of chasing. And going with the 3 simple tips that I share with you guys: thinking, speaking, action. So what happens in our mind, the thinking part, the validation comes from some wound from our childhood. So when we were growing up and we were seeking some validations and we could not get those validation, and a lot of time there are ways we overcome through that. I remember in my childhood when I went for engineering degree, and I was the first, and still is. I mean, after that I think there were 2 more a lot later, but anyway, I was the first engineer on my family from my mom's side and my dad's side, and especially me being a woman and in India and a small town. So it was, many people thought that I couldn't do it. So I still remember very close people in the family. But the way my personality is, I was like, oh, you think I can't? I'm going to show you. But that's what my personality has been like that, I think, from back then, and I followed that throughout my career, and that helped me in many ways because that kind of works, and like it propels me forward even further. But it was not like that in the early days, and I, like, as you see, I still remember that, so I have to be aware of that, how that impacts me, right? So you guys may have same or similar kind of experiences, that you knew you had such a strong belief that you could do this thing, whatever that thing is for you. You know, it doesn't have to be you became a doctor or engineer or you got a good job or a good degree, whatever that is. You knew, you know, at your core that you could do it, but people did not believe in you. Or at your workplace, you know that you can do this job better than the other people, but your boss or other people, they're thinking that he can't. So that comes from that, and it builds on it, because unfortunately in our life, many people don't see the potential that we see for ourselves. And in some way, you know, it's reasonable. You might think, like, you know, it sounds contradicting. It's reasonable because I share this thing that all 8 billion people, all of us, we have a 8 billion unique journey that we are on. Not even another person, even in your family, will fully understand that. Nobody understands what's in your mind. So a person, your boss or a coworker, they understand the part of you, only the part they communicate with. They don't know how much hardship you have overcome in your life. You may tell them in a version of a story, but what all was going on, they don't really know. So anyway, so long story short, it comes from our prior experiences in life. So, but we have to train ourselves, right? We can't really go change anybody else, so that we attract the right people. Here we are in point B, and we don't end up attracting the people based on our pain. We have to change ourselves, right? So that's what, when we are aware that we have that, only then we can change ourselves. If we are not even aware, and if we are not even noticing that we need to change, we're never going to change, right? And our mind, the way it works is it attracts people based on our pain, because it's the familiarity. Our mind looks for familiar pain, even if it's like, you know, you have a, I don't know, like a big diamond sitting there, it's in an unknown place. People rather wouldn't go there because they don't know, you know. There could be snakes or who knows what all. versus even here, you are going to get something of a steel plate. I don't know, like, things like that. That's what our mind is so fearful of, the unknown. But all the life that you want, it is in the unknown. Unknown is what can give you a new life, because whatever is known, you already know. And if you're fully 100% happy in point A, that means you have been there. You are already in point B. You won't be chasing. You won't be wanting anything. When you are at that state that I don't want anything, I don't need anything, I'm happy where I am, interesting thing is that is when you start attracting, because you are feeling so grateful that you already have it. You are not in the chasing mode. So it's interesting how that concept works. But anyway, so from thinking perspective, you have to remember that validation is not your fault, not anybody's fault. It comes from how we grow up, and most people grow up that way, that they seek for validation. So you don't have to feel like, oh, you are the only one who is thinking like, oh, I really feel like that, I wish this person texted back, or things like that. The validation from the person you are dating, right? Because more you start showing that or doing that, even if the right person is in your life, they're gonna feel chased, and that's not a good feeling. Imagine if you responded in a certain time because you have a schedule, whatnot, and the person is constantly nagging you. How do you feel? So it goes back to that, right? How we lived our life from there, where we can grow, and that comes from the personal growth needs to happen in that area, that you are not looking for the constant validation from somebody else. Now it comes to the speaking. So that thinking, sometimes it doesn't really, not sometimes, a lot of time, it doesn't change automatically. So you have to say things accordingly, and you have to take actions accordingly. So to say things, you have to start saying it to yourself, that I choose to validate myself. You can write a sentence like that I choose to validate myself. Or you can write down something that resonates with you, and you can even write it in a post-it and put it in in front of your computer, wherever you see it, a few times a day. And again, these are not that you have to do it all 30 days. Just do it for a day, a few times, and as I'm going through the day, your mind will start acting like that, because all of these are designed in such a way so that you don't have to do the same thing for 30 days. So every day you have a similar but not same. That's the point. They're similar but not same. That's how they're designed, so that our mind kind of starts rewiring. And if you know the rule, the rewiring takes anywhere between 21 to 66 days. 21 to 66 days. So if you do it for 30 days, after end of 30 days, your thinking, speaking, and action will start changing, so that you attract the right person. So that's pretty simple, right? Like, you just write it down. If you don't want to say it several times a day, just write it down, put it where you'd see it a few times a day. And the third part is, even after all of that, now you started dating, or maybe you went out on a first date and you really liked that person, but it didn't really go that way for the other person, or vice versa, different scenarios. Now, you are really wanting for them to call you back. You really want to go on a second date, but you're not hearing back from that person. You are not getting the text from that person after you texted to them, something that you guys talked and connected during the date, right? And you're thinking, did they find another person? They're going out with two different people, or what? Like, all of that. You don't want to use any brain space. You do not use any brain space, because you guys are not even exclusive yet. That's a waste of time, right? I know it sounds harsh, but that's a waste of time. You don't want to waste any brain space for that until you guys are exclusive, or at least you know that both of you guys are invested in it. Because midlife, again, there's no time to waste. You have your non-negotiables. You want to go out with the right person, and you don't want to choose the wrong person, because according to John Gottman and Julie Gottman, again, I don't have any affiliation with them, you can look it up. First marriage, 30 to 40% divorce rate. Second marriage, 60 to 70% divorce rate. You think that people will make better decision in the second marriage. But because people don't work through their wounds, they get attracted to the familiar pain, meaning they pick the person who's similar to, if not worse, that they had the relationship with. Of course, no wonder it doesn't work out. So that is why we need to work on ourselves, thinking, speaking, action through that. So the action step is, of course, when that happens, when you have that irresistible thought that I want this person to call me, I want this person to text me, you write it down for yourself. I validate myself. I'm worthy, and I know that I will have the right person coming into my life, whatever resonates with you. Just one simple sentence, right? Where you are validating your worth, right? Instead of anyone else. And if you are super brave, write down a comment below about that, right? This is when you say something in public, that works really, really much faster than when you're doing it in private. So make sure, write it down. So tomorrow I'm going to cover an interesting topic. It is about how to come out of the fantasy trap. All of us have fantasies, right? And fantasy is called fantasy for a reason, because that's not a reality. So if you want to know that, join me tomorrow. And until then, have fun.